Hey folks, we're going to do some artwork this morning. What is going on? Yeah, we're doing illustrations for Dungeons and Dragons Adventure. You can see the book cover here. It's called Crystals of Mabar. I'm going to check out on my signal here real quick, make sure my signal sounds okay. And then I'm going to check out on my signal here real quick. It sounds pretty good. It's a little boxy, but that's fine. I'm going to grab that link real quick. We're going to do quick social media updates here, and then we're going to get to work for about maybe like an hour and a half today. We're going to do some more illustrations. So just give me a hot second here to grab the links here for me to post on the Blue Sky, the X Twitter, the Discord channels, and okay, we're good to go. So let me drop that out of the way, and fix our monitor here. There we go. This book cover, Crystals of Mabar, this will be on the DMsGuild once it's finishing. And here is our current scene. Excuse me. Let me just say, if you think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe. Hey, new subscribers. Thanks a lot, guys. New subscribers today. I really appreciate you. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notification of when we're live in the future. Here's a bunch of books that I've already created on the DMsGuild. We're currently updating the mechanics for the Spelljammer combat and exploration document. We're going to be working on that tonight. But if you think this stuff is fun, cool, like and subscribe. I'm here Monday through Friday in the mornings doing Eberron adventure artwork, and then whatever next book it is that we do. We'll probably do like the bashing campaigns or the Spelljammer subclasses next. I'm not sure exactly what comes after this book, but this should be done probably November, December-ish, I'm thinking. Maybe before the new year this will be done, but we're getting really far down the pipe and resolving almost all the major things that need to be done in the book, and now we're just doing spot illustrations. So we finish an illustration, we move on to the next page, and when we run out of pages, we publish, and then we'll grab the next book and start doing illustrations for that one and publish that one. So hey, Dragons, good to see you. Good morning, man. Good morning. So this is a cemetery that we had created. Let me move this more on screen. It's a 50 by 50 square space, so it fits inside of a 500-foot square. For the Spelljammer enthusiasts out there, that's an inside joke. I'm thinking what we're depicting is the character around here. You can see this illustration here. Let me get the map out of the way. Here's the illustration. We can see like a little gazebo dais here, some characters, some NPC guards in the mist, and then this character is hiding behind the pillar to avoid being seen. And so I'm thinking this location here, let me spin the camera. I'm thinking this location is right about here, where the character is, where Enrica is hiding behind this pillar here, and that the guards are coming from. There's a secret passage over here. I don't have it up on open in Photoshop, but this is just a general map that you see when you're kicking through the place. But the DM can include a secret passage here that drops down a ladder and then goes underground. And this is the location where Enrica would have escaped from, and then she snuck around to hide over here, waiting for guards to pass by so that she could so that they go running off into the woods and not know where she's at, so she could be a little bit more casual about circling back around to rescue her friends. I'm doing pretty good. Thanks, Dragon. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we're getting stuff done. So this is a general idea of we got this these cobblestone paths that's covered with all this grit, and all these grit. This is the crystals of Mabar, the soil in the manifest zone where this cemetery is at. The necrotic energy is so powerful that it's terraforming the environment from normal earth into a necrotic Mabaran soil that encourages the growth of unnatural plants and will automatically animate any dead that are buried in it. So you can see in the cemetery here, every single one of these cemeteries, it's raining all the time that we described in the adventure. So there's these huge, mucky, necrotic pools of diseased water that are just filling in these landfills. And you can see every single one of these graves are empty because all of the undead have risen as long dead skeletons. And they've, for the most part, already drifted out of the cemetery through the breaches in the walls that are here, as well as just the main entrance, to just roam the manifest zone and then further out into the Carnwood Forest and the surrounding terrain. So this is a natural point for characters to be led into the adventure because of the amount of footprints that are coming from the forest or the initial village that the characters come into. They can just literally just follow all the tracks, and they'll lead to the cemetery. If they can either go to the cemetery, the flooded fort, or the gatehouse. The cemetery is high combat. The flooded fort has a decent amount of combat, but exploration, and then the gatehouse is either going to be like a stealth, like stealthing your way in, trying to sneak past like as an exploration challenge, or social engagement to interact with the captain of the guard that's stationed there protecting the underground facility from happenstance. So this is a high combat encounter area. These sinkholes. There's no telling how many undead are actually in this water because it's basically waist or chest deep depending on where you're at. So the DM can have any number of creatures come out of these various water sinkholes. I like this one a lot. I just like the artwork. This was made like around episode 150. We're currently near 560 episodes, so it took a while to make this map, man. It took a while. But yeah, each one of these flooded areas have any number of undead that you want come out of them, basically like Gauntlet style, like the video game Gauntlet. They'd have monster generators that would just keep throwing a line of monsters at you to overwhelm your characters until you killed your way through all the monsters to get to the monster generator. Then you destroy the monster generator, and then it stops generating monsters. So each one of these sinkholes acts as a monster generator if you want to have any number of undead come at the characters anytime you want, either in swarms or in small groups. And meanwhile, the players are navigating this space, and we provide this optional encounter here, which goes like this. So the escaped prisoner. We'll blow this out. Again, here's the full screen version of it. If you're using your PDF, if you're using it as a PDF and you're using a device, it's a 16 by 9 format. And let me edge that up a bit. There we go. And so here you have 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, and each one of these columns is also 16 by 9 in the vertical format. So you can either zoom in close, you can either look at the whole page at once, or you can zoom into each individual columns. And the font size, it's a base font 12 size font. So, I mean, it's really, really large text. And we break it up into these columns so not only can they fit on the device easily, so you can just pan back and forth across different ones, but it just makes it easy on the eyes. So part 2, optional encounter number 3, there's a number of optional encounters. In each map terrain, we have various encounters that you can swap in and out to change like what NPCs and what activities are happening there. And in this instance, Enrica Fleur is a scout of the Silver Flames. While her team was traveling within the Manifest Zone yesterday, they were ambushed by Karrnathi soldiers. She and some of her team were captured and taken underground, held captive with a handful of villagers and other folk. If the adventure begins in part 1 all the way back at the village and you're following tracks here, then you will have ran across Enrica's friends already that were stuck in a tree, and you had to rescue them from being eaten by undead, and one of them's already dead. Or if you start off, so if Enrica says they recognize her and as she's running to escape the cemetery. So if you have her friends with you as NPC sidekicks, they'll immediately recognize Enrica, and they're like, "Oh, that's our friend," and then you all click. But if the adventure begins actually inside part 2 at inside the manifest zone, and you've skipped the tree and you've skipped the village, and you're just like plane shifting, like the silver flame plane shifts you to the outskirts of the manifest zone where their divination fails. If that's where your adventure begins, then Enrica instead tells the characters that the other scouts, the other 3 that would have been up in the tree, but since you skipped the tree, the other scouts have been captured and may still be held underground in Part 3, Area 11, the prison. She's eager to show the characters the hidden passage at Area 6, Northern Gazebo, and join the party to rescue her allies. So that's how she gets inserted in as a helpful NPC ally. Because if you're taking the Silver Flame plot hook, generally it's looking at condensing the time frame of, we already know there's like this realm of evil that's in the Carnwood. We want you to go there, get to the center of it, and destroy it so that it melts away and stops being evil. So it's kind of a run and gun. It's more of a heist mission, sneak in, run and gun, destroy the place. And so not having a ton of exposition setting up what's going on, because it's a more isolated, like maybe a 2-shot event. You mess around in the cemetery in the first episode, and then once you have had enough playtime, then you find the secret passage in the Northern Gazebo, drop into the underground, and it takes you pretty much adjacent to where the prison's at. It's a way to shortcut the entire underground facility and get directly to where the prisoners are held, and they're being sacrificed to the ritual, so it's right next to where the ritual is taking place. So all the stuff underground can be skipped if you want to use the secret passage to kind of beeline to the end point in the adventure. And that way, you can make it a 1 or possibly a 2-shot adventure. There's a lot of different recommendations on how you can condense the experience or extrapolate more opportunities to explore the space more, depending on whether you're making it part of an ongoing campaign or it's just like a one-shot. And it's designed to be replayable and reconfigurable so you can have different elements presented at different times, which we spent a lot of time in the appendix talking through all these different variants, so that hopefully as a paid DM that gets hired to run experiences for people that are interested in D&D, if they want to use the Eberron campaign setting, this gives them basically a toolkit to be able to create different types of adventures with different amounts of combat, exploration, and social engagement, depending on how long the DM's been hired to run the gig. So that's the idea. And since you don't need to use every one of these regions throughout the adventure, I could be doing art. So hold on. Hold on there, Kearney. Let's actually maybe get to work here. Here's the guards. Here's the environment in general. Here's Enrica, and then here's the text. So, hey, I'm missing text. What's going on, guys? I love it. Somehow, yeah. It's exactly. It's the quantum ogre idea, where your DM is able to drop in whatever is useful, whatever you need, depending at at how far into the adventure you want to actually begin. So you have a ton of control. But if the DM reads through all of it, you can see like all of these different quantum factors. It's like, oh, I think I'd rather put the Silver Flame in here, or maybe some of the spies that the 12 have hired to come in and find out what's going on. Or you could have both of them in there in an active conflict against each other, and then your characters show up and like, who do you want to side with? Depending on who your team decides to engage with is going to determine what sort of information you get about what's going on. The default plot hook is that you don't know anything about what's going on. There's just missing people, and you've been sent by Fort Bastion as deputies to investigate these missing people. It's probably just people just ditching out of a bad situation, and they're not actually missing. But in case there's a problem, go in there, and the badges give you the authority to ask any questions of anyone that you want with legal authority, and it gives you the discretion to kill anything that you want and to make decisions for yourself. Once you realize there actually are prisoners that are villagers that are missing, you can rescue them. So if you're just getting dropped in here by the Silver Flame and you follow this down, it's like, what do you mean there's prisoners? It's like, yeah, there's this fucked up ritual that's happening. It's causing all this. Well, we got to chop that out. She's like, that's exactly what I was thinking. We're right there, guys. Let's go do it. So like, it can just lead you down that path. So when your team doesn't know anything starting off in the adventure, it doesn't really matter because there's a lot of opportunities for the DM to just decide to drop information, and depending on what NPCs the players encounter along the way, because they all have, like, some of them have maps, some of them have like books of documented journals that they've been keeping notes on, and they're trying to squirrel away to be able to share this information. Like, there's bad news happening here. Some of the NPCs are spies that are working for the enemy, but you don't know that until you get into it with them. So there's a lot of really fun opportunities for the players to fuck around and find out. But I'm going to conceal the elements that we don't need right now. This is the general environment that we have. I'm going to drop that down a little bit more. I'm going to come back through here, and we're going to start doing some just a cleanup of the environment. So let me grab our toolkit over here on the side and make it black. And I think a 5-point line is working well. Again, referencing our map here, we can look at, so these are pillars here. You got stairs leading up to this gazebo. This gazebo is collapsing into the water. So, but that is conveniently off camera, so you don't have to worry about all that water. But you can see the other gazebo here in the distance, and then some gravestones here, and then there's all this necrotic fog that limits your visibility. So once we get to that point, these guards that are searching for the lost prisoner, or the escaped prisoner, are just going to be shadowy silhouettes in the fog. And Enrica is close enough to the foreground to be inside of the obscurement area of the fog to be able to see her clearly hiding behind this pillar. So that's the composition that we're going for. So I'm just gonna get back to it, right? We'll go with this for a little shape here. So, like I said, I stream artwork like this Monday through Fridays in the morning. And currently we're doing the Eberron adventure, but this thing will conclude at some point, and then we'll start in on the next book. I haven't decided. We've got a lot of books that are on the workbench right now at various stages of completion. One of my major priorities, of course, is the Color Mana Spell Point variant rules. That is already released on the DMsGuild. But I want to update all that stuff for 2024, just like we're doing with the Spelljammer book. So I suspect what we'll be doing, let's drop this in here like that. That symmetry is a little off. Hold on. There, that's good symmetry. And then I'm just going to use the flat plane here. Grab this and merge that down. So we're going to start off with basically straight block architecture, and then we're going to start breaking it down because this cemetery is hundreds of years old. It is broken down. So let's use the skew tool and do a little bit of perspective shifting here, just a smidge, like that. So we're just going to do boxes at first and layer our way through them. Merge down. Hiccup. This doesn't need to be anywhere near perfect, because the stone is so worn that I'll be able to have little flaws and like wriggles and gaps and breaks and stuff, which will just help add to the general atmosphere of the environment. But as long as I get the architecture fairly good, we'll be good to go. So I'm gonna take this here like that. Then here, break that down, just pretty much like what we're already depicting here. Then I'll be able to add in like all the grit on top of the pyramid and along the sides here. Again, dropping back down here into our reference points. There, and there. Okay. Sorry, I'm looking. Let's do it like this. Let's just grab that point of reference here. So pillar here is here, and then we have this block here. And then we have another step and another step, and then there's... So let's drop down here and just work our way from the top down, shan't we? I'm going to have this about like that. And then we'll have a step here. There. So, hey, would the color mana system work if you only use it for one party member? Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. It's a spell point system that that ultimately curves out to this. You actually have, like, if you were to add up all the spell slots that your character would have as, like, say, a 20th level wizard, that 20th level wizard has more spell slots, levels worth of spell slots. They have 89. At 20th level, and the spell point system with like a full caster, like the wizard, has 80. So you're actually being gypped an entire 9th level spell using that system. But you have far more discretion about how you expend those points, and you can use the color. You can use the color system, like the actual magic paradigm, with spell slots, because you just like, hey, this is a red spell. And it's like a fireball is a 3rd level red spell, so I'm going to spend my 3rd level spell slot on, like, it becomes narrative, right? Like if I am a red wizard, then I'm going to invest in spells that are red. So my spell selection will all be devoted to red, even though I'm using spell slots to be able to cast them. If you want to use the color mana system, then your you could just have a pool of spell points like the Dungeon Master's Guide suggests, and then whenever you cast a red, like I'm a red wizard, so all my spell selection is going to be devoted to red, so I only have red mana, so I'm not tracking the color specifically at all. I just have a pool of spell points, and it's assumed they're all red, but I'm limiting the spells that I select to align with the red motif. Like Fireball, Flame Hands, transformation spells, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I need to fix the perspective here. What I really need to do is, I'll pontificate further in a second, because God, I love rambling about that shit. This is where I want to be, with this here. And then, right, and then we're going to do it like this. We're going to shallow up these steps. So there's top step here, second step here, third step here, and then fourth step here. There we go, like that. I'm having, sorry, I have to math a little bit, and that slows my brain down. So we're just layering in all this stuff like this. Should be fine. Yeah. Let's build it from, let's redo this and build it from the base up. That's probably the smartest way to do it. Okay, yeah. So if you're just a red wizard, either using spell slots or spell points, it's the spell selection that you limit your character to is how you're defining I'm a red wizard. And so if you're only using one color, there's no reason to distinguish one spell slot from another or one point of mana from another, because it's all going to be red anyway, because you're just casting red spells in this example. But if you wanted to broaden, if you wanted to deepen the mechanical complexity of your character, and like say instead of just being a red wizard, maybe you want to be like Boros with red and white magic. So now you're selecting spells that are devoted to both white and red, but you have to divide your mana pool up between, is this going to be a red, like will this be red mana or will this be white mana? So like the Divine Sorcerer in the Curse of Strahd campaign that I'm playing in right now, we're currently 7th level, and I'm devoted to Selûne, the goddess of the moon, and she's good aligned. So the colors I've chosen for my sorcerer is white and green. And all the spells that I've chosen from the cleric spell list or from the sorcerer's spell list are either white or green. White is pretty much like all the radiance and healing magic and protection magic, like bless and stuff like that. And green is also healing for like cure wounds and things like that. But also things like web, which is a super useful wizard spell. What else? What else am I using? Actually, I'm not really using green for anything other than healing and web spells. So, and then I wanted what was it? Knock. I wanted the knock spell, which is I believe a blue spell. It's not natural for white or green magic to cast a blue spell. So I either had to spend time to research that spell to be white or green, which I haven't had a chance to do. So while I want knock on my spell list, I prepare that spell, but then I have to prepare it a second time. So it would normally be blue, but I've made it, I've switched it and made it white. So I now have a blue spell on my white spell list, but I have one less spell available to my character in general. And then whenever I gain a level, I can swap all that stuff out and decide how I want to play. And then, since I have both white and green spells, my mana pool, I just divided up between white and green mana. Like, I want to have, like, say, 6 points of green mana, and then I want 14 points of white mana, because I know that I can cast healing spells, all my damage spells, and my combat support, like my combat buff spells, are all white. And the only thing I really need green for is when I want to throw webs on things. So if I'm going to throw a second level web spell, which is green, I spend 1 point of green, and then it can be any other color that I want from there. So I'll have like 6 or 7 points of green mana laying around just so I have an abundance of webs to be able to kick out if I need them. But otherwise, I can just default to my white color pool. And then whenever I cast a white spell, I can either use all white mana or 1 white and another green. And whenever I take a short rest or a long rest, even whether I gain mana back or not, whenever I take a rest, I can switch all the colors of whatever mana is now in my mana pool. If I've been drilled down to like 12 mana, I've burned through almost all of my white, and I still have 6 points of, like, I now have 6 points of white and 6 points of green because I haven't needed my green. I could like drop that down, like I only want 3 points of green and 9 points in white, and when we finish our short rest, I've reconfigured my mana pool and I'm ready to go. There you go. And whenever I finish a long rest, I can decide how much of that mana, of like that 20 mana that I have, like 18, I could have like 18 of it going to white and only 2 going to green because I don't anticipate needing web anymore or whatever. So that's how it works. No, I'm not really looking forward to Lorwyn. Just mostly because it's Wizards, and I don't. It's not a full campaign setting. It's just it's some backgrounds and some species options, a couple feats. Maybe there'll be like a modified Fey touched spellcasting sort of feat, like origin feat available, but they're not, as far as I know, they're not really leaning in with any kind of like actual like campaign stuff. So it doesn't actually do anything really important for me. I'll honestly probably just pirate it and skim through it, or I'll watch Nerd Immersion, and because he'll do probably like a page by page turn through it, quote unquote page by page. If I don't want to spend the $160 that I need to spend to get all the books, that just gives me access to that digital download. They'll either end up selling the digital download separately for like $6, which I would pay for just for being a completionist, because I have all the Magic the Gathering stuff that they've ever created. And yeah, so I'll either get it when they start selling it separately, or I'll just use screenshots off of other page turners and just gather the information I need from there. But I don't think it's going to have any real mechanical impact on what I've already done with the color mana system. So I don't think it has any crucial data that I need, to be able to do what I do. So, so short answer, too late. No, I don't anticipate picking it up unless they make it really, really cheap for me to grab. I am unwilling to spend $160 on Forgotten Realms to get a splash of Lorwyn. It's just isn't worth. I think it's interesting that they've made Lorwyn a Domain of Delight instead of its own campaign setting. I want to I bought the Eldraine monster manual because that had a ton of monsters that are cards that they converted into creatures, and it was a great opportunity. I actually did a creature by creature analysis and conversion into the color mana system, basically looking at these creatures, like this is traditionally a red creature. How are they expressing it mechanically? Oh, they're giving it initiative bonuses and modified opportunity tax and blah blah blah. So it was fun exploring the mechanics of the monster designs that they did for Eldraine, but they didn't. It's just a monster manual basically, so it doesn't actually have any kind of mana mechanics other than what's their spell selection, and that gave me a little bit more insight on how they were thinking about spells, which was useful, and we incorporated it into our color spell list that's on the DMsGuild. But you've got me monologuing. Let's shift this here, and actually let's raise the floor on this a little bit, and probably need to raise the floor on this here. Yeah, like that. I'm going to cut that into a separate layer so we can be ready for it to be what it needs to be when we get there. Architecture, man, it's these perspective things are a little tricky. I think I'm fairly good at freehanding it, but so we've got this level done and we've got this level done. Now we're looking at the actual pillars. So let's grab this and bring it back in to be about about here. That lines up. No, it can't be out like that. It needs to be brought in here. 1, 2, there we go. Buckle my shoe. And then that raises up. Let's, we're figuring it out. Hold on. We're figuring it out. Yeah, we want to have this here. There we go. Like that. Almost there. Thanks for the questions, Dragon. Appreciate it. Thanks for just being interested in the shit that I do. It's really sweet. Hey, how you doing, Fox? It's good to see you, my guy. Hey, Francois. What is my favorite MTG world? Well, I like Ravnica a lot because of the 10 guilds, and Ravnica is super steeped in flavor. But Kalashtar, which smells a lot like Eberron to me, honestly. The Artificer, sort of Turkish Middle Eastern vibe place. I think I like that the most. It has the energy mechanic, and it has the racing mechanics, there's race cars and shit. It feels very World Fair to me, very golden age, like mixed Turkey with the golden age of America. That's what Kalashtar feels like to me. So I like that vibe a lot. But I think as far as like adventuring for D&D, I think Ravnica is by far my favorite setting. The Rubble Belt is just too good of a so you have like the world on of Ravnica. It's, I forget the word, but the entire world is covered with city, except that there's these worms that live inside the depths of the planet that are 1 mile in diameter and 20 miles long. So when they surface to mate every 100 years or whatever, they cut massive, they're miles in size. They just cut swaths through city. So if you've got a migration pattern of worms coming through, they create what we call rubble belts, which are these giant strips of just like kaiju desolated city, and all the infrastructure goes down, and it'll be for hundreds of miles because you have all these worms crisscrossing through here doing their worm mating or whatever, and it just absolutely pulverizes. Like, here's a little bit of a block of a city that didn't get pulverized by these 3 intersecting lines, but these rifts will drop like 1,000 feet into the ground. So you have all these massive cleaved, just destroyed urban environments that are basically just like nuclear bomb wasteland that takes hundreds of years to rebuild. And so if you've got like the purified urban areas that are untouched where there's dense society, but then you start going out into these no man lands that can be hundreds or thousands of miles of swath that are just destroyed. And that is all just like raw point of light wilderness environments that is literally sitting on top of an infinite dungeon of undercity that gets exposed and tunneled through by these worms. So if you follow a worm trail, it'll just lead you into like a 1 mile hole into the ground that will just plunge for hundreds of miles into the core of the planet. So there is a ton of like every type of adventuring in a normal world that you would want is readily available in the Ravnica campaign setting, because the world of Ravnica is city built upon city, 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 miles deep before you actually get to like touch ground. All the mountains in the world have been paved over and filled in with city. So all of the architecture, like all the mountain ranges that are exposed on the planet, is just dilapidated structures or built up mega towers. So there's nothing, unless you go to a rubble belt where nature starts reclaiming it because there's no infrastructure or society left in that destroyed urban region. That's when nature starts to reclaim and starts growing forests from this broken architecture. And at any point, you can peel apart the branches and the roots of a tree, and this used to be a mall complex, and it's 50 feet deep, and we're just looking at the sunroof that all these vines grew over. So basically, anywhere in these wastelands, you can just drill for like anywhere from 10 to 100 feet, and you'll crack open Underdark. That's just infinite realms of collapsed structures built on top of other structures. There's so much fucking variety inside of what you can do with those environments. And I just love that. So Ravnica is my favorite D&D setting for sure. Just because of the variety that you can create in these different types of adventures. One of the earlier Martial Powers playtest that we were doing. The earlier Martial Power playtest was a Rubble Belt hex crawl where the every 10 miles I would randomly roll what color that environment is. So there was this hodgepodge patchwork of like swamp with plains and forest and hills, or steam vents, or like exposed infrastructure that's releasing like blue energy. And so we'd have themes around the colors of the land that the team was crawling through in the hex crawl. And the monsters that were in that area would just naturally be devoted to that color. Like if it's exposed steam vents, then you're going to have a bunch of like steam methods that are hanging out, enjoying the steaming experience. This was heated, in this particular example, it was heated by lava flow. So there was a bunch of magmen that were hanging out in these hot springs. So the conflict was hot springs, underpiping steam vents, and then there was a mana conversion factory that would convert the steam, the blue energy, the steam from the steam into blue mana through a power pylon. And that power pylon was still partially operational, so it was maintaining some infrastructure on sky islands that were floating above the steam vents. So we had the ground layer, which was basically lava fields, heated swamps, and pools. What's the word I'm looking for? Steam pools, right? And the monsters were the mephits and the magmen, but there's like crocodile, like scuttle gators and stuff like that were crawling through the swamp as well. And then above all of it was floating islands with sky bridges that had collapsed. So you could ramp onto the sky islands at different points where the infrastructure crumbled and dropped the sky bridge. Now it's a ramp that will lead you up into these upper structures. And there's pixies and a sphinx and a bunch of artifice constructs up in the sky island. So you had a bunch of urban, an urban crawl in the sky, and on the ground it was like swamp and bamboo forests and hot springs. That's the word I was looking for, and lava fields. Like that was just one of the regions that the team was fucking around inside of. They ended up getting hired by the Sphinx that was in the Sky Islands that was looking for a particular type of mox crystal that could channel blue energy, but the Sphinx didn't know where it was, or rather it thought it knew where it was, but it was too big because it's huge. It was too big to go get it itself because it was down in these lava vents that were only large or medium-sized access points. There was a Kuatoa society that had grown up inside of those vents, and they were using the blue crystal, Mana's mox crystal. It had gotten fused to the mother of the Kuatoa clan. So it would use the magic from the crystal that was fused to its body to infuse all the Kuatoa eggs with magical energy, so they'd have psionic powers and extra limbs or whatever. And so the team's job was to go in and get the crystal. When they found out it was stuck to what was basically like a giant anglerfish Kuatoa creature, that was a boss fight they had underwater to kill that creature, to take its magic away, to return it to the Sphinx, that then rewarded them with some small mana stones, some artifice machinery that they could use as like power stones to cast different spells, and it gave them a place to crash in the wilderness. Like, hey, you helped me out, you're welcome to be here. I'm just doing research in this old library. And they could then use that library as a point of researching additional spells and stuff if they wanted to. So that was fun. That was like maybe a 9-session series that we ran through that at 5th through 7th level, just running the color mana, using the martial powers and color mana system as a playtest. But as a result of that, I basically built out an entire color mana hex crawl system that works, that's built for Ravnica, that I will probably eventually get around to publishing. And I've been rambling a lot. What's up? What's changed? Whatever. It's whatever. I think Kaladesh is a cool name. I'm keeping it. And if you think I'm evil, so what? Yeah, Francois, you're always finding the words that you can't use. I can't say black hole. Can't say tossing into a black hole, I guess. Can't say bad guys. I can say it's just not in a sentence. Is this about the sea from exploring Eberron? Oh, hey, P&E. Welcome to the mix, man. Yeah. This is just we were just the question was, what's my favorite Magic the Gathering setting? Because I make if you're interested. Wait, welcome to the mix, man. Cheers to be here. Thank you. But yeah, it's I created a color mana system, like an alternate spell point system for Dungeons and Dragons. And so when I use the color mana system, I tend to lean into Magic the Gathering settings, and that was just me rambling on about how much I fucking love Ravnica. But that was all that was in the rubble belts, like 300 miles away from the nearest city. The scenario was that the team was taking an ornithopter to another region of city, over cross the rubble belts 700 miles to get to the next urban block, and their ship got attacked and it crashed. So it lands in a swamp, and now you're stranded. So the mission for the adventurers was to either find a working communications tower, like up in one of these sky islands perhaps, and maybe the Sphinx could help us with that, to call for help to get extracted, or crawl out on your feet for 700 miles to get to where you're supposed to be going. So it was, however they wanted to deal with it, that was on them. They're like, well, the Sphinx might be able to help us, so let's start there. And that's what got them into messing around with the Kuatoa and exploring the space, and Bob's your uncle. I think I need to raise this up a little bit more. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I had a blast running that. And it was incredibly informative for the martial power system that we've been developing. That feels right. This looks good. Like that. And here. Get rid of that. Okay, so there we go. We have our pillar here, which is here. And then we have this second layer here with the steps, and then the next. Here's the top portion, and then here's the step down that goes halfway. And then we have this third tier here, which we have here. And then here's the fourth tier, which we have here, and then there's actual ground, which is here. So that's fairly accurate architecture. I think it's a little bit too spread out. I think I need to condense it, because this is over the course of 5 feet, and this is far more than 5 feet. So now that I have this in place, I need to squish it down so it's a little bit more compressed. But that's the vibe we were going for here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. That'd be about knee height, I guess. Let me rearrange my chair. What time is it? 7:15. We got about 30. We got about 30, 40 minutes. I do this Monday through Fridays in the mornings, and then tonight we're going to work on Spelljammer, converting the document that we built into the 5e to 4 mechanics. Let's compress this here. Merge down. Now that we've got like a general vibe of how this thing is. Yeah, I think I want to compress this a little bit. Hey, what's up? Up to 6. Oop, spoke too soon. Hey, yeah, sometimes people come and go. God bless them. We aren't getting tracking on people that like using ad blockers and stuff like that. They don't count as views in my statistics anymore. But yeah, it's cool having people swing through and say, hey, makes me feel like I'm doing something right. I hate having to get caught up in numbers, because the last thing I want to do is chase numbers. If I wanted to make this channel really grow, I'd make I'd do produced videos, talking about some subject matter or whatever, of which I could talk about any number of things. But I really want to make books. And doing artwork like this is something that I've been doing for since I was 7, but didn't start taking seriously until I was 12, and then started getting paid to do it when I was 20. So I've been at this game for quite some time, and one thing that I do know is whether it's popular or not, I'm going to keep painting, and I'm going to keep running games in D&D, and I'm going to keep using those two things together. So any success that I gain, I want it to be something that can be sustainable. What I really don't like, and I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody when I say this, but I really don't like top 5 feats to take as a warlock. Like, I hate that shit. Like, how soulless, how damning to be stuck in that sort of a paradigm where I have to come up with some stupid content to feed the algorithm. I would love, and I don't know if this is my destiny or not, but I would love just to be able to do this and be able to just create things and make things for the sake of creating them, but have it related to stuff that people could, make use of in their games and have fun with. So I don't know if it's a winning strategy or not, but it's the strategy that I'm currently following, and God will guide me to where I'm supposed to be if I just keep doing what my heart tells me is fun to do, and I can be authentic about. I think ultimately that's where I really, really need to be with this YouTube thing, because it's again, doing art is incredibly lonely, and until I found YouTube, I would basically listen to music or whatever was going on, and but it would be hundreds of hours of me basically being all alone, wondering, is this stuff interesting or not, and not knowing until it's complete if I was right or not. But being able to talk about it, or how it relates to my philosophies on game design, or like how it relates to different adventures I've already ran that inspired me to do this book or whatever. I think that has, it's a long, slow art. It's a long ride, and you kind of have to be content to listening to an old man rambling about, whatever, days of yore. But I don't know, maybe the people that think that stuff is cool will show up and hang out with me, and it over time, I've got 25 years until I need to worry about how the hell am I going to live again, and assuming that my corporate job doesn't explode. So I've got time, and that allows me to have sincerity. I don't have to make any rushed decisions around what I think is going to make me money because I need to pay rent. I've got a stable life, God bless it. And if it's my destiny to do this stuff, then life will find a way. So anyway, that's me rambling on. So forgive me. It's exciting to me about the potential of it, but I also know that I'm nowhere near that. So I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me and just enjoying the vibe and letting an old long-toothed DM talk about days of yore. But I like taking all that old theory and all that old game design and then converting it into the modern 5e game engine, because I'm a D&D junkie. When I was when I was 13, that's when I first got my first Dragon magazine and Dungeon magazine at B. Dalton Bookstore at the mall, back in the days when malls were a thing. And it's like, God, all I have to do is get a little older and a little better to be able to sign contracts and stuff, and maybe I can do D&D adventure art as well. And that made me really passionate about staying involved in it and giving me a potential outlet for my artwork. And, well, I don't see any color, so I ran into the wall of, well, how the hell am I supposed to paint in color? There's no way I can do that. So I was stuck using pencil and sketching until Photoshop happened, and now I've got an RGB slider here in the upper right hand corner, and that's all the color vision that I need. So I can just reference other things that exist in the correct color, and now I can do that. But now, as a part of that modernization, that new technology, that happened while the world globalized. So I was getting into doing freelance artwork finally in my early 20s. But just as I started to get a foothold there, the world globalized. And now I'm competing against artists in Serbia or Singapore or Korea. And at the time, a lot of these places have the same level of technology I have access to, but since they're not in America, they have a third or a fifth of their household income that I would need. So I'm now competing against other artists that can produce artwork just as good as or better than I can for a fraction of what I can afford to live with. So it's well, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? And that's when 5th edition came about. I kind of stepped away from it for a while and just did a bunch of personal D&D stuff for my team. And it's like, what am I supposed to do now? And then 5th edition happened, and I got inspired because the OGL and opening up licensing and stuff like that. I'll catch up with you guys here in a minute, I swear. Let me just finish whatever I'm riffing on here, and then I'll get out of the conversation. But the OGL happened in 3rd edition. Wizards of the Coast took over. Brilliant move, opening it up to basically anybody, and it happened to coincide with when print on demand became possible. So now a third-party market was capable of actually producing 3rd edition content and could actually sell it on a website or on their own website or wherever. The license was open. Anyone could now do this. And so print on demand happened at the same time that broadband hit the entire world. So now there's an explosion of people looking for artwork, but the market globalized. So my pricing is being undercut. And in 3rd edition, there were so many books. Like they put out like 2, maybe even 3 books a month with character options in them. So our team never felt like we needed to create our own content, because let's just take the stuff that's already in the books and see what happens there, and let's make some characters, and if we don't like them, there's going to be more books next month, and we'll just create something completely different and just keep running campaigns and fucking around with the rules and combining them all together to make these crazy characters. And that became addictive, of just creating crazy builds. It was an entire subgenre of gameplay in the 3rd edition space where it was like white room armchair designers, but there was so many things that you could build, that just creating crazy combination characters and then just testing them out in whatever random game you guys are running, like that was a viable way to play D&D. Like that was the D&D vibe for like a decade. And then, so there was never any real compelling reason, like why would I need to create third-party content if like these are all the, like we can do all these crazy things with the actual rules, and we have no idea what they're going to come up with next, because they were releasing like the Book of Incarnum, like Incarnum magic, and the Tome of Magic, like with Shadow Magic and Binders, like all these exotic classes, and they all have prestige classes that would be anywhere from 3 to 10 levels themselves. And if you're only running a 20 level game, it's like 10 levels of fighter and then like 10 levels of devoted defender. And I just capped out my character at 20th level, and that's just a tiny fraction of all the shit that you could have potentially built. Let's run another campaign with I'm gonna do an Eldritch Master this time and combine sorcery with cleric casting, and anytime anyone says my name, I can scry your location. So like, what kind of crazy characters can we build with those ideas? Like there was no limit. But then 5th edition came out, and it's like, wait a second, where's all the diversity? Where's the abundance? Where's the flood of content? And it wasn't there. And that's when we started realizing, wait a second, Wizards has learned that if you create all of this stuff, you're just basically fracturing your base. And so they reduced the amount of content that they're producing and made it universal. So instead of coming up with a crazy new character class and inventing an entire new system of magic to support that new character, they're like, no, we're gonna create an idea as a subclass, and it's gonna use all the mechanics that already exist. So that huge prolific diversity of design ideas dried up during 4th and into 5th edition. So now I'm like, well, none of these ideas exist anymore, but I loved all of them. Let's try bringing some of these ideas back, and that's where the DMsGuild was at, and that's where I'm at, is basically taking all these older school ideas and like modernizing them for 5th edition, or rather what 5th edition has become. So that's my story. That's my story. The passion of the videos. Thank you. Arcadia's in a way, DMsGuild has destroyed WotC's need to support the settings past the base books. Like 5e is the worst edition of lore books. Yeah, it absolutely is. 100% agreed. I think it's a real shame, like, compare what they put out for, oh my God, yeah, there's no comparison at all. You're absolutely right. I think it's a real shame since Wizards still gets profits from all those books being sold online. I think it's a real fucking shame that they don't lean into their own history. It's like, hey, here's 5,000 pages of Forgotten Realms content. Here's like a little, like an online PDF thing for you to update your characters. But if you want to play Silvery Moon Westmarch Cormyr style, here's an entire book on Silvery Moon and Cormyr that you can just lean into for ideas. And like Telfamar, like the Telfamar Shadow Pouncers I was talking about yesterday, that was my favorite prestige class. And it's like, here's a book of Telfamar. It was the Unapproachable East. Was a supplement in 3rd edition. It was basically Am and Telfamar, and it had all of its like unique regional subclasses and spell casting and character options, and it was super dense. And it's so easy to convert things from 3rd edition to 5th edition. I think it's just a huge loss that they're trying to reinvent their own history to sell books instead of just leaning into all of that investment that already still is high super fucking quality. And instead just like make a Silvery Moon conversion guide. It's like, hey, for $5 here's a PDF or whatever, and you can take all the ideas from the Heartlands supplement, and here's how you update them in 5th edition. Go forth and enjoy the content. Like, to recycle their own shit. The books already exist, they just gotta sell them. I just think it's a huge shame that that's not the philosophy that they took. I'm not a big lore expert myself, but God, I really appreciated how much depth there was in 2nd and 3rd edition, how much attention was paid to the amount of lore. Like, they really like being a lore expert in D&D was like a job back in the day. But they decided to make a huge IP out of it somehow. And I think they sacrificed the heart for the wallet, and I don't think it's. I mean, the system's doing great. They're making a lot of money. Just they're not making retarded money like they wanted to. They're just making decent money for a corporation. They're making decent money with D&D. But it was. I would have rather have seen D&D remaining a passion side gig, supported by sales of Magic the Gathering. It's like, yeah, we made $200 million this quarter. Let's put $10 million of it and make like some really cool Magic the Gathering settings for D&D. Let's hire on some people and make some cool books and throw ideas around and make a thing out of this. But they're not. I don't think corporations, like I don't think being owned by Hasbro allows them to really appreciate what it is that they have. Like, corporations prevent you from appreciating things because it's like, that was nice. How are you going to make more money for us this quarter? Like, even higher profit earnings. How are we going to ratchet those numbers up? And it's like, you can't. You have to be content at some point. Otherwise, you're going to destroy. You have to eat your own market to be able. And we're kind of seeing that with like expanded universes and stuff in Magic the Gathering, because that's the only cow they have to milk. They're absolutely abusing its teats. But that's what corporations do, which is why I don't think art should be involved in corporations like ever. I think Larian Studio is the way to do it, man. Be privately owned, or have contract to be privately operated with independent creative control, and just let them fucking cook. If you let people that are passionate about things cook long enough, they're going to make something delicious, and you're gonna love the taste of it. And just give them the time to cook. And I don't think we have that anymore. This pillar over here, for me to make this fit, this pillar is gonna have to be really small. So hold on. Let's resize that. That feels about right. That's about where it's supposed to be. And that lines up. So cool. There we go. Let's bond these together. Hey, what's going on?
For GM's product build, updates old spells.
Yeah. That's a really good example of like smart use of content.
They should rent the copyright. I think that'd be great. If there was one MTG setting I would love to see is Cyberpunk Age.
Yeah. Fuck, what's that one called? I can't remember. Kamigawa. Thank you, Kamigawa. Yeah, Kamigawa is cool. I like that one.
Decent PDF. There is
yes. There are a few MTG channels that use that use Patreon and stuff to produce things. Once the Color Mana is done, I'm going to be one of those guys too, getting the taking the 2025 mechanics for the Color Mana system, and then start building out. Since there is no real money on the DM's Guild for Magic the Gathering stuff, but it's the only place I can officially publish books for it. I wanted to create the Color Mana system and put it on the DM's Guild out of respect. But from there, I'm free to like make like the Book of Boros or like Kalishtar Artificers, and that's something I can put on Patreon. And then offer to people as ideas that use the Color Mana system that I put on the DM's Guild. So DM's Guild's 100% free preview. Go read the book and then hang out on my Patreon and ask me, like, do you want me to make a Sedgwitch? Sure, let's make Sedgwitch shit. So this month we're making Sedgwitches. What we're gonna do? You want to do Dimir Assassins, so like mind magic and stuff like that? Cool. Let's lean into Dimir and Azorius. And we're gonna make like a little Dimir Azorius thing this month. Like that's ultimately where I'd like to get to, but I need to convert the Color Mana system to the 2024 rules, and I want to publish the Martial Powers system, so that when we start doing things like the Book of Dimir, I can have it coming from both a Martial Powers and a Color Magic spell point system, so you can use both of those together to like create multi-class options, right? To like kind of like make prestige classes out of the spell and power options that you're using your mana on. So big brain idea. It takes a long fucking time for me to be able to make all these things work properly, but that's the dream. That's where I want to get to. And like I would love to do a Spelljammer Ravnica conversion, where they're leaving the planet to spread out to the moons and other things in the Ravnica, like in Ravnica space. And so the Gruul clan, of course, doesn't build ships, but they take massive sized creatures that have their own atmosphere out into space to attack moon bases and stuff like that. And I just think there's a ton of like fun potential like that, but there would never be any money in that on the DM's Guild. But if I did it off of Patreon, I can make these things available to people, and then give me a buck, you get a vote, that sort of stuff. So it's a super long tail process. But that's my dream. That's where I want to get. I just got to do one thing at a time. So we got Spelljammer taken care of. We're updating that now. We built the 2014 version of Color Mana system. Now we're going to update it for the 2025 rules. The Martial Power system was something that I've always wanted to do, and it just happens to work out that I can do it with the Color Mana system as well. So now we can express all character classes using the same mana system for their class features and blah blah blah. So that's been working out. It takes a long time. I'm just one guy, so it takes forever for me to get the stuff done. But once it's done, that's the vision. That's the plan. And hopefully 6th edition doesn't happen before I get to that point. Because I might just have to stay in 5th edition and keep doing stuff. But okay, cool. So here we are. We've got this pretty much the way that I want it to be. Trim that down like that. I want to tilt the camera angle a little bit. We want to skew this a smidge. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Let's get that in there here like that. I've got like maybe 10 minutes left today. drop this a bit to see how we're sitting. About like that should be good. We can take this stuff here. Bring that there. I think I want to increase this. More about like this. That's starting to feel, yeah, I think that feels pretty good. Drop that in here. And then take this and push it back like that. We'll drop the opacity on this just a little bit more, and then we'll increase the opacity here so this stands out. Yeah, the perspective's a little off, but maybe if I squinch it, let's try squinch it. Ah, there we go. It's not perfect, but it's close. So I'll need to spend a little bit, probably a little bit off screen time, just whinging with the details here, but I think that's pretty good about where I wanted to be with this. That seems to be probably the right size. I'm going to reduce our size a little bit here. And then we might have to take all of this. Here's the reference. Here's Enrica. Here's the environment. Let's grab all of that and drop it into a separate folder so I can grab the whole thing. I can bring this down so I can still, because I don't need to have, these steps aren't really fucking important. It just has to be something that she's sitting on. There.
Let me catch up with you guys. Yeah, oh god, the old spells are crazy good. The old spells. One just gives glass. The strength.
Yes, glass steel. What a niche spell. Huge in Spelljammer. We used to glass steel all our ships. Of course you would. There, I think that's probably good. Yeah, I need to give her boots and shit and change her angle and stuff. This is just for reference right now, just sizing reference. So that'll sit fine there. And I can't really pull this off screen any more than I have. I'm going to get rid of that. She's not going to have weapons. She just escaped from prison. She doesn't have weapons. And then we can bring, aha, there we go. We can bring this over here like this. And then we have our guards back here. That'll just be shadows in the mist. That's roughly the proper composition. Now, again, the angle, the perspective is still a little skewed, but I need to fix that. But I think this is about where we need to be. So I am happy with that. It's a decent composition. I can see my this area here. That perspective seems to be pretty good. This down here is off perspective from that. So how about I cut that free and try fixing that separately. There's no space in the adventure for like little art pieces like this. All the pages are filled up with like blocks of maps and diagrams. So this back section here where we have all these variants, these little image vignettes as an opportunity for me to actually show the environments, like in the forests, for instance, to show like how those, like the necrotic effects of the forest is like melting the trees, and that's stuff I didn't have the bandwidth in the actual area where those those encounters are described. But here back in the appendix, when we're looking at optional additional content, this is the perfect place for us to layer all these little details in. So, and this is absolutely wrong perspective. We need to push this out to like here. But I'll have to whinge on these details tonight. I'm going to be back tonight to work on Spelljammer. It's 7:43 right now. I've still got a few minutes. I can keep working on this perspective a little bit, but probably by 6 p.m. tonight. It's almost 8 o'clock here in Seattle, so in about 10 hours, I'll be back on to continue working on revising Spelljammer to be compliant with the 2024 rules. We're just basically doing a page-by-page walkthrough of the book and updating wherever we're seeing, there's been changes to the mechanics. Let's update those. That's what we've been doing. So I think I can afford to be here like that. That feels better already. This is a little off. Let's conceal Enrica again. Get her out of the way. Get this back into here like that. Now things are starting to flesh themselves out. What's up?
Speaking of old spells, sticks to...
Oh my god, sticks to snakes. Classic. So your cleric just has a quiver of arrows on your back that your archer can pull arrows from as they need to, or you just grab a fist of them and you throw them and the arrows become snakes. So you have like little arrowheads or like the biting that the snakes does. I think that's fun. Sticks to snakes, man. Old school. Such a sick spell. There. And there. Yeah, this is panning out. If I go over the lines long enough, they'll eventually make sense. But it's true. It's actually true. If I just keep whinging on it long enough, it ends up looking... See, it's already looking better. There. Okay, so that feels pretty good. Yeah, this is all structurally sound now, I think. Get that pillar back in place here. There. And now I think we can... Let's... I'm just going to merge that down. And then I get the background here. I think I want to make, I want to back off the background a little bit. Yeah, we don't need that anymore, so let's get rid of the scrap. And I like the perspective here on this. Something around like that. And now I want to take both of these and reduce the size of them. because I only have an active area inside this space here. Like this is at most the active area that I have for this. So framing the camera shot has now become, now that we have the architecture figured out for how this thing is supposed to actually sit on the page, now we have to work on our camera. And like this is a little off, so I'm gonna like skew this a little bit. Free transform, skew, give it a tilt. There we go, a little bit like that. Push it back. I could potentially mess around. Hold on real quick. Let's just mess around for a second here with the perspective. Use the perspective tool. Do I like that? I like that. Push into the foreground a little bit more. That feels good. Let's shift that a little bit more. That feels... Nope, that didn't make a significant improvement. So I like the idea of having the top of this pillar still visible. That's where I'm kind of, I want to increase the size of this pillar here because it's going to give, it's going to give Enrica a little bit more space to hide back here. And that's not the proper pose. This is just the sketch. This is just the character that we're using, that we created that happened to escape. So we're going to change her pose to be a little bit more concealed. But I think that's the proper size for her character. So that feels good. And now the background here, this is starting to mesh here. I think I want to push this back like that. And maybe that will allow us to bring all of this structure forward a little bit. Is what I need. I think what I need to do. Honestly, let's do this. Let's just drop a huge masking layer over all of this so that it stays isolated. Because this is the actual area we have to play with. And now that I've done that, I can move the illustration around inside of its box. And we can start looking at like what is the actual positions of stuff that we're moving with. And that actually feels pretty good. Push these guys back to here. I think I want to slide. Actually, let's bring these guys forward, and I have to drop their size because of foreshortening and because of distance is a thing. That feels about right. Yeah, and now we can take all of this and put that about there. Yeah, that actually feels about right. Something like that. Maybe we can zoom in a little bit more. Just really center in on like what's the actual importance in the piece. That feels about right. And now because we've zoomed in so much, I can afford to shrink down Enrica a little bit, have her fitting in the space a little bit better. Okay, so having done all that, let's go and look at our rules of thirds. Right, the rule of thirds says that you take your canvas, and I'm going to blip 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 blip. I'm gonna blip all that. Here's our rule of thirds. Rule of thirds is you take your composition and you break it into thirds horizontally and thirds vertically. That's roughly the composition. Now the hot points in the piece are going to be here and here, or here and here. So it's either going to be, because you want your eye to have motion. So using this grid, this is the center points where your eye is going to be most attracted to. And you want the piece, like the vibe of the piece, to either tilt upward or tilt downward. Having said that, let's look at our composition. There. So where's our points of interest? We'll need to slide Enrica's head over so that her eyes are basically right on point center here. Those are moving parallel across to where these guards are here. Ideally, we would have more of a focus of interest down here, but I think in this, so I can take these troops and push them forward a little bit to be on the center line. I think that'll end up working out okay. And I can drop their size a little bit to bring them more down towards here. But this is our center point. This is where our points of interest are at. So I think she's lined up really nicely, and I think that pillar is doing a great job with it. And this is basically our, somewhere inside here is our horizon line. It's probably about midpoint between those two things. And so these guys being lined up over here also feels correct, quote unquote. I think I want to center them on either side of the line there because that feels really well balanced, and I think I'm actually okay with them being midline because there's still a drop in perspective, but it's still respecting these points. So I think that's good composition. So I'm going to drop that into the reference. So having said that, this is our composition, and I think it does a good job. And this structure here, I think that does a good job framing foreground from background. And then we got some headstones here. We'll have some muck in the background, and we'll just flesh all that stuff out with fog and shit when we go. But this is a decent point. So the next thing that I need to work on is getting the geometry of the background correct and in perspective with the foreground dais. And again, just to remind everyone, here we go. This is the cemetery that we're using. So this is basically a 500-foot square that the cemetery sits inside of. I have it tilted to match the angle because she is basically here. And so the perspective is coming across here. You've got these flagstone path, and you've got these cemetery stones back here. Flagstone path, cemetery stones, swampy bog water in the back, and then these guys are walking through that area. That's basically the correct that's correct perspective for all these things. And since we're wrong there, zoom in. Since our perspective is basically like here, like this is basically our camera angle like that. Here. So our camera is pretty much located like right here. Looking this way across all this stuff. Here's the bog, here's some cemetery stones, but that's a very limited field of vision. So I don't have to like worry about this gazebo back here. We don't have to worry about these mausoleums here or the actual crypts that are basically the camera's back is to. Very limited scope. Goddamn, this map was fun to make. I really enjoyed this one. Super, super fun. Let's fold that all in. And what time is it? It's 7:57. So yeah, it's time for me to kick out of here. Hey, this is a good natural stopping point. When we come back tomorrow, we'll figure out the rest of the geometry on the ground to make sure the perspective is proper, and then we can start adding in color. Like we did yesterday and 1,000 days before, adding in the base colors and then the lighting and shadow effects, and then some light detail work, and then we'll bind the line art into the color, and then we'll use that to further sculpt details to give it more of a semi-real look instead of a comic book look. We'll work in 4 different layers. We'll have Enrica as one layer, and I'm going to have to rebuild her to have the proper pose to hide. The foreground architecture of the structure, the background architecture of the graveyard, and then the two guards that are looking for her in the mist. So 1, 2, 3, 4 separate layer elements that we need to worry about to seal together. And the thickness of the fog that's naturally in this environment is going to obscure pretty much anything to being just light shadows in the background beyond these guys. So this fog, like this blankness here, can just have, it'll just be like environmental filling stuff. So this should end up, I mean, it's a minor illustration. It's not significant. So it should all pan out pretty nicely. Let's do that. And I actually feel like I can raise that up a smidge. Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. And then we can take this guy and this here and here and actually drop those down a little bit more. Like that. Nice. Okay, yeah, that's decent. That feels like a decent composition. Oh man, I love doing this stuff. It's so much fun. It's so much fun, and it's great being able to explore these ideas and play with them with you guys. Again, here's the full page. It's the 16:9 format. Since it's a digital only product, why not lean into the digital aspects of it? So there we go. Yeah, we'll have some like little corner scuff, like you can see, like we've got some scuff going on here in the corners and along the edges. So we're figuring out little details along the edges here. I haven't finished. I need to clean up or improve on this border edge here, which I've been working on a little bit off and on. A lot of times I'll do the border at the very end. It'll be the last thing that I do, like with the Spelljammer book. But I've like this is too big of a gap for me to put like a real illustration. It's too small of a gap for me to put a real illustration in. But I can do some texturing and just some fiddly bits down there. And there's a lot of instances of having like a little bit of gap at the bottom of the pages. I could potentially like pontificate and talk about continuing the adventure more, like adding text to it since I've got that space. But that's going to be like late. That's super late stage. So I'm really happy with how it's sitting so far. But yeah, it's 105. It's 105 pages, including book cover and back end. So there's 103 pages of actual adventure content that's inside of here for people to play with, and they're all in the 16:9 format. Like this is 17 inches by 10 inches. It's a huge surface area for us to be able to build with. I really like this format. I think I'm going to use it again in the future. I'm considering whether to convert like the Martial Powers book and the Color Mana system into this sort of a format or not, but I might just save this for adventures only and just stick with the typical 8.5 by 11 format for more traditional supplemental like character option books. I haven't decided yet. I'll definitely be using this format for the Bastion campaign book for sure. But that's it for now, guys. I got to kick out of here. I'm about to be late. Yeah, I'm officially late. So if you guys think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, please. I would love to have your support. We're trying to get to at least 1,000 subscribers so I can have like a respectable channel. Check out my books down below and stick around. I'm here Monday through Friday in the mornings. I'm here Mondays and Thursday nights. Sometimes I'll do lunch stuff on Tuesdays and Fridays, but I'm kind of backing off that production cycle a little bit. So Monday through Friday in the morning, doing artwork and design work and like graphic design and visual stuff. And then on Mondays and Thursday nights, we spend 2 or 3 hours doing like game mechanics for whatever the next books are going to be. So sort of makes that. Well, so small time content creator, no shame in that. Yeah. again, sorry for being disjointed. I get on a tear and I can't really read your text unless I lean into it. So, no, I don't use Twitch. I don't like using Twitch. I guess I don't know why. Just reasons. I should probably look at other platforms, but here I am. I'm doing YouTube stuff. So until my heart motivates me to do something different, that's where I'm at. I used to be on Twitch, but I like playing I like playing licensed music. So they banned my channel, and then I'd have to make a new channel and start over again. I had like 75 followers in like the first 3 months, so it wasn't bad. Twitch was certainly doing me well, but I don't know. Twitch seems unstable to me. It seems iffy, so I'm not convinced to go back there yet. I could be talked into it potentially, but I'm not there yet. All right, I got to get out of here. Hopefully I'll catch up with some of you guys in 10 hours. I'll be back on doing Spelljammer stuff. If this stuff was cool to you guys, you'll probably like my Spelljammer shit too. So I'll catch up with y'all later. Thanks a lot for hanging out, guys. I really appreciate it. See you guys. Bye.